Welcome. This is New Orleans Jazz National Historical Park, and I am Hunter Miles Davis, a ranger here. Today, I have the privilege and the pleasure of listening and experiencing one of the best bands and groups here in New Orleans. Today, we have Mr. Adonis Rose featuring the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, delivering intricate melodies, harmonies, and rhythms from those of James Black. We also have Mr. Nick Spitzer here, a host of American Roots. He'll be having conversation with one of the best drummers here in New Orleans. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
All right, my name is Adonis Rose, Artistic Director of the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, and we're here to play the music of James Black and some other legendary New Orleans musicians. So we're going to get started with a boogaloo written by Mr. James Black, and this tune is entitled Old Wine.
Old wine.
Old wine.
Uh-huh. Old wine. James Black, huh?
James Black, the one and only.
Yeah. Fantastic sound. I guess today we'll hear some old wine, and we'll also dig into some a little bit of imbibing of some new wine as well.
All right.
Adonis, thanks for being out here with the group.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, all sounds good down here in the Ninth Ward. James Black, what drew you as a percussionist, musician, thinker, doer to James Black?
Well, you can't be a New Orleans drummer and not be attracted or influenced by James Black in one way or another. Actually, you can't be a New Orleans musician and not be influenced by James Black.
Yeah.
I have a personal connection to James Black because I studied with him, but James Black and my dad, Vernon Severin, they were good friends. They were best friends up until the time that James Black died. But not only that, my uncle played in James Black's band. My uncle Chris Severin was his bassist. So there was really no getting away from James Black. He was at the house almost every day. I didn't even know he was a drummer for the longest time when I was a kid, just coming up.
It was just a friend coming over.
He was just
hanging
come
out.
over, hang with my parents,
Yeah.
drink. He would be at all the family parties. And then one day I found out he was a drummer. He gave my dad a set of drums, and that was it.
Huh.
So he gave me drum lessons and gave my brother trumpet lessons. He was also a trumpet player.
Right, yeah. That's an unusual pairing, it seems to me.
Well, it's pretty common. A
Is it?
lot of trumpet players play drums. Actually, a lot of drummers play trumpet. So
Yeah.
Herlin Riley plays a trumpet.
Yeah, right, of course.
Yeah.
Well, a melodic instrument gives you insight into that side of the music.
It does,
too.
it does.
Well, in addition to being drawn to your family, I mean, Irma Thomas, Harold Batiste, obviously Ellis Marsalis, Lee Dorsey, the Meters, Dr. John,
Yusef
Eddie
Lateef.
Bowe. Yeah, out on the road with Yusef Lateef, Freddie Hubbard,
Cannonball.
Lionel Hampton. I mean, a lot of people were drawn to James Black.
They had no choice. I mean, he was a musician that was ahead of his time, just in terms of the way he played the drums, which was one thing. His style, he was influenced a lot by Max Roach. Max Roach's playing, and then you had other great drummers around who were before him. You had Ed Blackwell. You had a lot of great drummers that influenced James Black. Smokey Johnson was around, but as a drummer, he was the New Orleans modern jazz drummer. Outside of Ed Blackwell. So yeah, I mean, anytime you sit behind a kid or hire him for a gig and you just heard the amount of music that was coming from behind the drum set, naturally you would be attracted to that, especially if you were dealing with music in a certain vein. So if you were looking to be progressive and be modern, James Black was the guy you would want to call.
Yeah, if you want to be soulful and funky, you call him
He did
too.
it all. Yeah, he did it all. He played with Fast Domino, obviously.
Yeah.
He played with a lot of people, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, what's on your mind for what we could do next here?
I think we're going to do another tune. It's a very beautiful tune by James Black. This one's entitled Pretty One.
All right. Adonis Rose and band.
We ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
So great to hear these melodies and harmonies. They're sweet. You know, you have an image of James Black as this fast-moving, hard-charging guy, but this is incredibly sweet, mellow, not saccharine, but real beautiful.
Oh yeah, yeah. He definitely had a different side to his personality. Actually, you know, one of the things that are really present in a lot of his music, and the thing that I feel like makes him special are the melodies. They make the entire songs.
Yeah.
You know, all of the chord progressions. To me, when I think about him as a composer, some composers have different methods to writing. Like for me, I like to map out a form and do the chords and map that out and see what that's going to be. For James Black, you could tell that he wrote the melodies a lot of times first to his songs.
Yeah.
They're intricate rhythmically also, but I mean, these could easily be songs written by any tenor saxophonist or trumpet player. Very melodic. Very melodic.
Yeah. So, as a drummer, you know, I wonder, how do you approach getting to the sound of James Black? I mean, I assume there's notation, and you know, obviously there's harmony and melody. But when you're trying to play his part or your way with his part, how do you approach doing something like that?
I mean, basically for me, the foundation of my drumming, a lot of it came from James Black. And I've listened to so much of him as a drummer. Naturally for me, being a New Orleans drummer and knowing him, studying with him, it's easy for me to be able to hear his music a certain way. But with that, I've developed my own style over the years and my own way of hearing through music and you know, finishing out phrases that make it unique to my playing. And one thing, knowing James Black and the type of musician that he was and person that he was, his thing was all the time that he used to say to my dad, you know, you got to put your personality through the music.
Right.
He was a
You're not
firm
just covering
believer.
him.
Yeah,
You're bringing
he's a
your
firm
own
believer.
self to his sound and his
Yes,
spirit.
yes. So to hear, I don't think if James Black was coming to any of my gigs and I was playing his music, he would want me to play the music the way he did, because it is impossible anyway. You just can't do it.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, I always am amazed when I think of New Orleans. Over the years, we've had tremendous music programs in public schools. We had a dropout during Katrina and sort of building back. But I was reading that I guess he went to Southern and played in that legendary marching band.
Yep.
So what's the relationship between kids learning, you know, marching music for Mardi Gras, football games, and everything else, and how you deal with modern jazz, or, you know, for that matter, soul or funk or whatever?
Yeah, well, you're looking at a product of exactly that. So I started playing the drums when I was about 4 years old. I played in my concert band at Phillips Elementary School. I grew up in the St. Bernard Projects. And then I went on to play in marching bands in junior high school. I was the section leader of the drum section. I was really serious about that. I had a full scholarship to go to St. Aug and play in their marching band.
And that's a tough ensemble.
It is, but I ended up getting into NOCA.
Oh, great.
And
New Orleans
at the
Center
time,
for the Creative Arts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. And at the time, you couldn't do both. So I had to make a decision on whether or not I was going to go to St. Aug or if I was going to go to NOCA. And my dad had a lot to do with that. He wanted me to be a professional musician. So he was like, look, as much as you want to go to St. Aug, like, you're going to do that. You're going to outgrow it. And this is where you should be. So he pretty much forced me to go there. I wanted to do marching band. But I am a product of a New Orleans musician who went from playing in a concert band to the marching band to playing in brass bands to going to NOCA and playing in small ensembles. That eventually got me to the place where I am now. So for me, I would not trade any of those experiences because it's all a journey and a trek. And I think if you do it in that order, you know, it gives you, it gives you good techno facility, but also in-depth knowledge of the music from a lot of different perspectives.
It makes you an all-around kind of guy.
It does. It does.
It's kind of amazing. And I'm sure you respect all those different settings.
I love them all. I love them.
Yeah.
We just went to Battle of the Bands, Terence and I. Let me introduce the guys.
Yeah, do that.
This is Terence Taplin on the trombone.
I know Terence.
He also went to St. Aug and Southern and marched in those bands.
Okay.
Jelani Bowman on the trumpet. Ricardo Pascal on the tenor saxophone.
All right.
Jesse McBride on the piano. And Amina Michelle Scott on the bass. I say her middle name just in case you... She wanted me to add that.
Yeah, well, welcome to Radioland, lady and gentlemen. Good to hear you here. It's just so nice to be down here in the Ninth and listen to some of this music that's modern, but it sounds very rooted at the same time. So
Yeah.
we love it. We love
yeah.
it. So what's next on the chart here, you think, Adonis?
I think my relationship to James Black and James Black's relationship to all of New Orleans music includes a lot of different legendary artists that are from here, including Harold Batiste, Elvin Batiste, Ellis Marsalis in particular. I would like to play some of their music also because James Black also recorded some of this music, their music with them. So I want to jump into some of Ellis Marsalis' music, and then we'll come back and play another James Black tune. I would like to do a tune entitled Orchid Blue, written by Ellis Marsalis.
Orchid Blue, so that sounds like something's very beautiful, but could be blue in all the good ways of blueness. Could be sad, could be happy. Orchid Blue.
Yeah. It's another song with a very beautiful melody, kind of medium swing, laid back. It's kind of Ellis Marsalis type vibe. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful tune.
We'll think about Mr. Marsalis.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Orchid Blue, Adonis Rose and Band from the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, sounding sweet, continuing sweet. I was going to ask you when we were talking about all those styles, maybe until about 10, 15 years ago, there was a big split in New Orleans between New Orleans traditional jazz and modern. At least it was a discussion that was always going on. But it seems to me that modern goes back pretty far in New Orleans. There are people in the 50s, 60s doing all kinds of stuff.
Well, I mean, it's just a lot of times a matter of semantics. I mean, when you talk about New Orleans music, first of all, jazz was created here. And
right, so that was modern, whether it was 1905
we had the modern musicians. Jelly Roll Morton was modern, King Oliver was modern, and then when Louis Armstrong came, there was nobody doing anything even close to what he was doing.
Even more modern.
We led the way with the music for a long time.
Yeah, that solo in the front of West End Blues is like, oh.
Yeah, it's just, it's all dependent of what era of the music you want to talk about. But, I mean, to say that Leroy Jones is not a modern New Orleans jazz trumpeter would be an insult.
Yeah. No, you can just got down the names and figure all these things out. But it seems to me, though, that there was this discussion that went on. But finally, little by little, it feels to me like there's a feeling that it all flows together.
Well,
it
different
always, times for different things.
It really always did.
Right.
But there are so many styles of New Orleans music that have to be preserved. Here's the thing. What's the saying? A jack of all trades, but master of none.
Right.
In order to really develop a style and master it, a lot of the times you have to really, that's primarily what you have to do. Yeah. And there are people dedicated to styles of New Orleans music, and because they're dedicated to the styles of music is the reason why the music is still interesting and people still want to hear it. I mean, when you think about George Porter and Zigaboo and Russell Batiste, when you think about New Orleans funk, you don't really want to hear them play at Preservation Hall. You want to go and see them at the Maple Leaf, and you want to hear them at Tipitina's.
Right.
But that is what they do. So we are charged with the responsibility of keeping all New Orleans music alive.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to be you have to be immersed in the music to be able to master it over long periods of time. So yes, it's all good. It has always been that way, and I don't expect it to ever change. So yeah, but there were discussions about it, but at the end of the day, it really didn't mean anything. It's all New Orleans music.
Well, I think it was more of a social split sometimes.
Absolutely.
Than a musical split. And,
Yeah,
and you're right. And you're a peacemaker. And let's face it, I mean, there are a lot of people emerging now in this generation who are masters of many genres inside jazz. Integrating hip hop and funk and soul into modern and all kinds of interesting ways, and going the other direction too.
Yeah. Well, jazz has always been social music and music that dealt with the times and the way people lived in the world. So we don't expect it to be any different from that. But the music is the music. You can put whatever label you want to put on it. People tend to do that because, one, we have to be able to associate it with something. And then the record companies.
Yeah, I was going to say the industry tends to put labels and categories.
They have to find a way to sell the music.
Who they're selling it to, right. But you're living here. I assume everybody here is living here.
Yep.
So that's a choice.
Yeah.
Vote with your feet by planting yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. I think it's a good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been through some tough times, obviously with hurricanes over the years and COVID and hurricane. What keeps you in New Orleans?
Well, first of all, in my mind, home is wherever my mama is. So if my mama leaves New Orleans, I'm probably going to leave New Orleans. New Orleans is home. So that's the first thing. After Hurricane Katrina, I left and moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area for 10 years, where I was teaching. I taught at UT Arlington for about 7 years. When I moved there, when the storm happened, I was playing with Harry Connick and his band at the time, and I started my own nonprofit organization there. I ran a festival. Cadillac had a festival. I was the artistic director at that festival for 3 years. But circumstances caused me to have to move home. My mom got sick, had a stroke. And then the job that I have now, I was summoned or asked to come in to be in a position that I am now.
Director of NOJO.
Exactly.
New Orleans
So-
Jazz Orchestra.
Exactly. So
And
I moved
NOJO's a
back
good
home.
short name for it, but it is the New Orleans Jazz
It's the New
Orchestra.
Orleans Jazz Orchestra.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I moved back to take care of responsibilities, and there's no place like home. I mean, Dallas Fort Worth could never be New Orleans. There's no place that could ever be.
You
New Orleans.
think?
Yeah. No way.
Yeah. No, I got it. Well, so you know, if we were to make the analogy to sports, you're like the player coach.
Well, yes, but without a good team, you fail.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of souls and information and people
Yeah.
to be able to make things work.
Maybe I should just say quarterback.
I'm more like a coach,
Are you?
but I also go in the game too. So it's kind of hard to describe.
You get a few bruises once in a
Yeah,
while.
if Sean Payton played running back and coached, that probably would be me.
Like LeBron.
Yeah.
Bill Russell.
Yeah, I can see.
Exactly.
The only one that got the player coach.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's the baddest dude out there.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He was letting them know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, music and sports kind of go hand in hand in American life. And, the history of the 20th century being what it is, a time of Jim Crow, access through music and sports were very powerful ways that people got observed, heard, and finally some breakthroughs that came from it. So it's a continuing question of what you do and how you do it and getting people to understand its power and value. To me, I see jazz as the great liberation music of the 20th century, and now we're in the 21st.
Absolutely, no doubt.
So what can you do to liberate us a little more here on public radio? Because public radio needs liberation every so often.
Well, we speak through our music, and that's the best way to get people interested, and it's the best way to express what it is that we have on our mind. So we do it through these instruments and the music, and that's what we're going to do.
So name a tune.
Let's do Harlot's Laughing. This is a tune by the great Harold Batiste, who also taught at the University of New Orleans and was a great
Right.
alto saxophonist.
All for One Records.
All AFO Records,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons why I want to highlight him and his music. Obviously, James Black was a part of that. Ellis Marsalis was a part of that. And that label had a lot to do with exposing New Orleans music and the modern, quote-unquote, jazz players. I want to do that. Tune entitled Harlot's Laughing, and I think he named this tune after his son, Harlot.
Adonis Rosen Band here on American Roots, coming from Nojo and the small ensemble. It's just great to hear you all today on this lovely sunny afternoon in New Orleans. You know, I was wondering, Adonis, some people can see on radio. It's kind of like a visual, if you give them the right words. Music makes them have images, imagination in their mind somewhere about what things look like through sound. I wondered, could you give us a little walking tour of your drum kit there, what you've got, just with sound, brushes, sticks, cymbals, bass drum, snare?
Oh, sure. Well, the lowest part of the drum kit would be the bass drum, which is here. I play it with my right foot, and there's a pedal connected to it. This would be the snare drum, which is kind of the center of the drum kit. And then mounted on the bass drum, we have a tom, which sounds like this. And then we have a floor tom, which sits, it has legs, and obviously it's on the floor. It's also a tom, which is a part of the drum kit. We also have the hi-hat. We used to call it the sock cymbal. And that sounds like this, or I can play rhythm on it.
Love that muting feature it's got.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Gives it a real voice.
Well, yeah, you can affect the sound according to the tension, how much tension you use with your left foot. And then I have two ride cymbals that I use primarily for playing swing and embellishments. They have bells at the top of the cymbals, and pretty much the sound from the cymbal starts at the bell and resonates out.
When you say the bell, that's the curved portion at the top?
That's the top.
Yeah,
here, and
okay,
it actually
right.
sounds like a bell when you play
Okay.
it. And these sound like this.
There's the bell.
That sounds like a bell, right?
Yeah.
And then I have...
Wait, no, ride. Why are they called ride cymbals?
Well, they call it a ride cymbal because it's the, other than the snare drum being the center of the drum kit, before you had ride cymbals, primarily drummers played press rolls on the snare drums. But then as time progressed, a few drummers, Baby Daz was one,
One of my favorites.
they started to move to using, they used to have a splash cymbal that used to be in the middle of the drum kit, but then they eventually moved that and kept time. Time was primarily kept with the snare drum and the bass drum. That moved as the music progressed to playing it on a ride cymbal.
Okay.
So that's why we call it a ride, because everything is sitting on top of this,
Okay.
along with the bass.
Yeah.
And we're playing quarter notes the entire time, so we're keeping the time there.
Sounds good. Thanks for breaking it down.
Yeah.
So where should we go musically in this moment?
We're gonna do a tune, one of my favorite tunes by James Black. This one's entitled the Magnolia Triangle. It's a very interesting tune because it's in 5/4, which is very difficult time signature to play in. So we're gonna attempt to play this tune in 5/4.
The 5/4 challenge.
We're going to attempt to do this and not butcher his music up so much. Even if you practice it and you rehearse it, there's still the chance that you can still mess it up because it's very difficult. And the melody is very intricate. I mean, it's just a well-written tune and probably one of his most popular tunes to play. So we're going to do the Magnolia Triangle.
Magnolia Triangle, I have to think that radio listeners across the country are cheering right now.
Oh, I hope
Or
so.
at least snapping their fingers or clapping their hands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're here in a studio where it's, it's quiet, so y'all are making some beautiful sounds. And not cracking a sweat from what I can tell.
Well, I am.
You're not showing it, man.
Yeah, I'm playing James Black's music, so I'm sweating.
I sweat on the inside.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, if it was John Coltrane, then we'll have some other people sweating. But
Well, we can't hear the sweat. Let's put it that way. So, man, that's so good. Reading about James Black, many of the people that talk about him say that he lived a fast life, and of course, he died younger than he ever should have died. But what did that mean? He lived a fast life.
well, he was a very energetic person. That's the first thing, and then he was very opinionated, and he was just a tough guy.
Yeah.
And if you brought him into your space or you went into his space, it wasn't hard to figure that out. You figure that out very quickly. And he also really didn't like many drummers. There are a lot of drummers that he did not like. He liked Elvin Jones, but I remember hearing a story one time that Elvin Jones came to New Orleans to play with John Coltrane, and he used James Black's drums. And Elvin was playing so much on a drum kit this night that James Black made up some excuse to take his hi-hat away from Elvin Jones while he was on stage. So he took the hi-hat from Elvin Jones, and Elvin Jones played the gig without a hi-hat.
Whoa.
So there were many stories like that about James Black.
Yeah.
He did not like Tony Williams at all.
Yeah.
He hated Tony Williams' playing. And I don't know if I've ever shared that before, but he did not like Tony Williams. I'm not going to say why he didn't like Tony Williams in his description of it, but he didn't like Tony
Well,
Williams.
we began with how many people he'd played with who must have loved his music, but now we're on to all the people
Yeah,
he didn't
we're
he
talking
didn't
about his
appreciate.
personality now, so that's a different thing.
But the
yeah.
personality is a powerful one, and
Yeah.
I think it's part of the memory that's in you and so many people that talk about him. I interviewed Charles Neville a number of times, and he brought up something to me that I never knew, which was that there was a modern jazz band in Angola.
Exactly. They were there
And
together.
the situation with jazz musicians in New Orleans is you're going to get pinched no matter what,
Right.
if they wanted to pinch you. So you end up with a band, I guess they were called the Knickknacks, that has Charles playing sax, and James Booker's there, Chris Kenner's there,
Yep,
and
James
James
Booker.
Black is there. I mean, this is like an all-star lineup
Exactly.
in prison.
And at some point, Aaron Neville got there later, and I mean, it was really, I'm guessing the
Freddie
idea.
Fender.
Yeah, the idea
All
of it
kinds
back
of
then,
people.
it was the truest form of rehabilitation. Where
But it was Angola that needed to be rehabilitated
well, I'm
more
just
than
saying
many
that's
of the prisoners.
well, exactly. But that's where they sent them,
Yeah.
and they were able to still be musicians in
Yeah.
the prison and give that to other people that probably really needed it.
Yeah, oh no, and then they
Yeah.
toured outside. But I mean, jazz is a freedom statement in many ways, and so
Yeah.
in prison, if you're playing that music, if you just listen to the records, you'd think it was all work songs, an old blues, maybe some gospel. If you listen to more of what got recorded, there's Mardi Gras Indians there.
Right.
But a modern jazz band in Angola in the early '60s is kind of an incredible.
Yeah.
image.
Oh yeah.
And James Black was part of it.
Oh yeah. He was. Oh yeah.
Well, we're heading towards the end of our ride here. What would you like to take us home with?
We're gonna do. Let's do "Swinging at the Haven" by Ellis Marsalis.
Oh, that's the name of the old Marsalis Motel, huh?
That's right.
That's a
right.
lovely thing.
That's right. We're going to do that. I saw something recently in the news where the state, they were putting up, they were going to different locations around the state and designating them as historical landmarks. And the old Marsalis Hotel was one of them. That hotel would house a lot of civil rights, people in the civil rights movement and musicians and people who would come through town. So it was a very important piece of history. And yeah, we're going to do this tune. Swinging at the Haven.
Uh-huh.
It's funny, I remember, I used to play with Ellis Marsalis before he passed. I would always ask him about playing Swinging at the Haven or 12-zit. I think he liked 12-zit. But Swinging at the Haven, he never liked to play that tune. He told me he didn't like to play it.
Maybe he had to do extra work for his daddy there to take care of the place.
He did not want to play Swinging at the Haven.
But I mean, he did end up recording it, and I think they
Well,
played
yeah,
it
it's
live
just-
when they had the big UNO concert back when.
Yeah, but
he didn't want to play it.
never wanted to play it. I don't know if I was the only person that knew that, but never wanted to play it.
Well, we're lucky that you're here, Dennis Rose and your crew. Hey, before we head out, let's give everybody else a name check one more time.
That's right, Jesse McBride on the piano.
All right, Jesse.
Amina Michelle Scott, just in case somebody else has the first and last name. Jelani Bowman on the trumpet. Ricardo Pascal on the tenor saxophone, and I'm Adonis Rose on the drums.
And a little
Terence
earlier on,
Taplin
we had Terence
on the trombone.
Taplin here.
That's right, Terence Taplin on the trombone.
All right. All very good. Well, thank you so much for coming out, folks. It's just a great afternoon to hear your music, and takes me to another level just to hear it. And I hope everyone who's listening out there to American Roots feels the same way.
All right, well, thank you for having us.
Swinging at the Haven.
Swinging at the Haven.
Ooh.
There we have it.
Hey, Adonis Rose and band, thank you so much for coming out here on American
Thank you, man.
Roots.
Thanks for having us.
To Mr. Nick Spitzer, Adonis Rose, and New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, we thank you. Be sure to visit us at New Orleans Jazz National Historical Park on our Facebook page for more updates, musical events, and more performances. Have a good day.